Okay, good morning, everybody. Monday, February 22nd, the Board of Control meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Good morning. Calling the roll for the February 22nd Board of Control meeting. It is 11:01. Dale Miller.
Here.
Nan Baker.
Here.
Trevor McAleer serving as an alternate for Purnell Jones.
Here.
Mike Chambers serving as an alternate for Armin Budish.
Here.
Lee Tucker serving as an alternate for the fiscal officer.
Here.
Nicole English serving as an alternate for Mike Dever.
Here.
Lenora Lockett. We have a quorum.
Okay, very well. Next on our list, reviewing the minutes from February 16th. I am going to make a motion to approve those minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Nicole English. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Moving on to public comment. If there's anyone from the public wishes to speak, now is the time. Okay, no public comment. Moving on to contracts and awards.
First item, BC 2021-75, Department of Public Works, requesting authority to prepare an amendment to a contract with TRC Engineers Incorporated for general engineering services for the period June 12th, 2019 through June 11th, 2022 for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $137,774.
Nicole English with Public Works. This is an amendment to our general services contract that was selected with an RFQ process initially. There's two tasks that these consultants are working on for us. Number one is Jefferson Avenue Bridge, which there was additional structural details required by the railroad. So this is a bridge over the railroad in Cleveland, and as most people know, the railroad is very difficult to work with. And so late in the game, they asked for additional details before they would be willing to approve our bridge. So there was additional work that needed to be done. And then the second is Green Road, which is a kind of a side hill structure and roadway improvement going on in the city of South Euclid. And at the time where we were about stage 3, which is almost complete with plans, South Euclid had come to us and asked for additional crosswalk enhancements, bike boxes on the roads, and a change in guardrail that essentially was going to look nicer than our traditional guardrail. And they are willing to pay for the design of those features, so part of this amendment is getting paid back by the city of South Euclid once we final the project. So there was a question that came in that I apologize we didn't get to ahead of time, but just why does the engineering cost exceed the total? There was $800,000 for 2 contracts of $400,000. It is not a master contract though, so we can't just switch money between the 2 consultants. Suhail and Suhail are still under their $400,000 contract. However, TRC, the 2 tasks they're assigned to, need this additional money due to the facts that I just talked about earlier.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Are there questions from the board on this item?
Nan Baker, just one question.
Sure.
Thanks for the breakdown, Nicole. What would you say is, I know I hear you on the railway and how difficult it is to work with them. How much of this ask is railway and how much of it is the second project?
I think it's close to half and half. I want to say the railroad work was around $60,000, and then the remainder is for the city of South Euclid.
So the balance of the 60, you think we will get reimbursement for?
Correct. And we will bill them at the time, because they have a portion of construction. So when we sell the project, and then we know how much the construction costs, we will bill them back for the design and then forward for the construction at that point.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Are there additional questions on this item? Hearing none, then I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second Nan Baker.
Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, the item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-76, Department of Human Resources, submitting an amendment to a contract with Moore Counseling and Mediation Services Incorporated for the Employee Assistance Program for county employees and their eligible dependents for the period January 8th, January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2020, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $146,126.40.
Good morning, Pat Smock on behalf of the Department of Human Resources. HR is requesting to extend the Employee Assistance Program agreement with more counseling. The Employee Assistance Program offers employees of the executive, of various courts, the Board of Elections, prosecutor, Public Defender, and Veterans Service Commission, their spouses and their dependents, 6 free confidential counseling sessions on topics like mental health, substance abuse, financial issues, elder and child care assistance, et cetera. They also provide the on-site critical incident counseling for county staff after a traumatic event. HR does have a draft RFP completed for these services. We're bringing this forward to avoid a lapse in services while we complete the RFP. This is coming forward late. The department's had some staffing issues. We've not had an HR business services manager for some time. We're addressing that and filling that position. And also, we've had some turnover in our HR benefits staff and some issues navigating the loss and contract management system. So we apologize for the tardiness. The causes of that are being addressed. The RFP, actually the draft is written. We're ready to move forward with that, and we appreciate the board's consideration of this request.
Thank you, Pat. Are there any questions from the board on this item?
Nan Baker, just a comment. Thank you, Pat, for explaining the lateness. It does sound like you had a lot of challenges, although this contract started in January of 2018, but I still understand and glad that you made it clear that you're overcoming many of the difficulties that you had in this contract. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Okay, any other questions on this item? Hearing none, then I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second, this is Trevor.
Seconded by Mr. Macular. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item approved. Next item, please.
BC 2021-77, Department of Workforce Development, submitting an amendment to a contract with Strategic Resources Consulting, LLC, for outreach and communication services to develop and implement a communication and outreach plan for the period November 1st, 2019 through October 31st, 2020, to extend the time period to October 31st, 2021, to modify the language in Section 8.15 regarding force majeure events effective November 1st, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $125,000.
Good morning. This is Mary Kelly on behalf of the Department of Workforce Development. We are here seeking $125,000 in additional funding for this contract. 100% of the funds are federal funds provided via the Workforce Opportunity and Innovation Act. The purpose of this contract is to promote Ohio Means Jobs, Cleveland, Cuyahoga County services, and encourage both the workforce talent and employer pools to maximize their understanding and use of the services for funded training opportunities, employment soft skills, job search, and career retention skills for both adult dislocated workers and young adults. The procurement method was an RFP. This occurred at the beginning or maybe around spring of 2019. 6 responses were pulled and evaluated. We selected the best bid with the lowest cost, and that was awarded on August 15th, 2019.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Are there any questions from the board on this item?
If I may, Nan Baker. So I see an explanation as to why it's delayed. And I know the conversion from old system to new system has been a challenge. Do you think you've overcome for the next time this is coming up that you will be able to manage this?
Yes,
better?
I believe we will. Oh, yes. Because for the first time changing over to the new Infor system, there was a conversion process to get it into the contract module itself. That won't have to happen moving forward, and any adjustments to this will be through amendment only. So I think that myself and our staff have gotten much more proficient on using the Infor system. And there's a whole entire step that was kind of like the initial startup set that won't have to happen ever again. It was just to get the order in the proper module within the system. So I believe we will overcome it, and we are understanding that, these items must be timely.
Thank you for that. Is the organization waiting for these dollars? Nothing's been paid to them as of 10/31/20?
There were some outstanding invoices that were paid that were moving through the process in the interim. But no, we have not been able to avail ourselves of their services, and they are ready to get going and begin. So we appreciate your consideration.
Yes, thank you. This is really an outstanding program. It's too bad that it's 4 months waiting, but certainly we'll approve it. And thank you for your work, and I'm glad to hear that you've overcome the challenges of getting this through for next time.
Well, thank you for the board's consideration. We appreciate that.
Okay, any final questions on this item?
Mr. Chair, this is Trevor. Just a quick question. When do we plan on bidding this service out again?
We have a 3-year contract so it's like the first year and then two options for 1 year. This is the second year. So we could choose to either exercise the 3rd-year option or go for an RFP.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but I mean, depending on the performance and the outcomes, we'll evaluate that after they get moving through this year.
Okay, hearing no further questions, I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
This is Dale.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item, please.
Next item, BC 2021-78, Department of Workforce Development, submitting an amendment to a contract with Linking Employment Abilities and Potential for the In-School Youth Program for students with disabilities in connection with the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act for the period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2021, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $32,000.
This is Mary Kelly again on behalf of Workforce Development. This is for an in-school young adult program to provide 60 youth with disabilities support and training to graduate from high school and also obtain employment. It currently takes place in 2 Cleveland Municipal School District high schools, James Road and Campus International. This is also 100% federal funding through WIOA, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. At the time of this amendment, we're around 75% through the contract time period. LEAP has already reached 85% of their enrollment goals. This vendor consistently meets our goals for enrollment, graduation, and job placement. It was selected through an RFP process. 4 bids were pulled from procurement, 4 were reviewed, and 1 was selected.
Okay, thanks again, Mary. Are there any questions from the board on this item? Okay, hearing no questions, I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second. This is Dale.
Seconded by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2021-79, Sheriff's Department, recommending an award on a purchase order to Viken Detection Corporation in the amount not to exceed $43,950 for the purchase of 1 new handheld portable backscatter X-ray imager for use in law enforcement operations.
Stephen Witt with the Sheriff's Department. This is a request for approval of a purchase order for a handheld backscatter X-ray imager. This is effectively a handheld X-ray machine for use by law enforcement officers to check for items hidden within vehicles, cavities, like containers and such, without actually having to open those containers up. This was bid out, and this is an award recommendation to the lowest bidder.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Are there any questions from the board on this item?
Nan Baker, just a curious question. You're purchasing only one?
Yes, this is funded with our FY 2019 Operation Stone Garden Grant Fund. These are quite expensive pieces of equipment, so we've identified that we only need one at this time because it's only used for things for operations where they're doing criminal interdiction or they're expecting to do warrant service in a place where drugs may be hidden in obscure locations.
Okay, and this is the one and only. Have you used one in the past? Do we have any others that are currently being used?
The department does not have one of these units on hand. When we need one, we usually work with one of the other agencies in the area that have one. I know a lot of our law enforcement officers that work on task forces or interagency operations have had experience with these in the past, and that's how we identified that this would be useful to us.
Okay, good. Thank you for the background.
Any other questions from the board on this item? Hearing none, then I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second Nan Baker.
Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-80, Sheriff's Department submitting an amendment to a contract with Black Creek Integrated Systems Corporation for maintenance and support of multi-component security systems at the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Justice Center located at 9300 Quincy Avenue, Cleveland, for the period January 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2020, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $160,867.
Stephen Witt with the Sheriff's Department again. First, I would like to apologize to staff that processed this item were not available to be on this call this morning. This is an amendment to our agreement with Black Creek to handle support and maintenance of our security systems over at the Juvenile Justice Center. This amendment will carry us through the end of the year. I believe we are currently looking into the possibility of bidding out an agreement for maintenance and support going forward. We acknowledge that this is quite late, having ended in 2020. Some of the issues that caused us to be late were that it got lost in that contract conversion process that was previously mentioned. And then we had some issues with the system actually lost the item physically, and we had to have several support tickets to get found, to find it and get it back on track. So moving forward, we hope that won't be an issue, as those issues should have already been addressed, and most of our contracts have already been converted at this point.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Are there any questions from the board on this item?
Yes, this is Dale, and I see in the backup material that this is the latest in several iterations on this particular contract, and I'm wondering if you could give me the price history, how much the current cost of $160,867 compares with what we've paid in the past several contracts.
Sure. Let me pull up the history real quick. Again, I apologize. The staff that normally handled these agreements with the security systems were not available on this call. I don't have the information on hand. I'll talk with the staff and we'll get that sent out to you.
Can you speak generally as to whether this year's is an increase over last year, or is it the same?
I do not have that information. The last information I have is from our agreement at this point in 2017, and from that, it is a significant increase. But again, I can't speak directly as to why it's increased at that point. We'll have to get back to you on that one.
So how much was the amount in 2017?
In 2017, I'm seeing that the agreement was for $30,000 for 2/1/2017 through 12/31/2017. I'm not seeing any updated information on my documents that I have in front of me.
Lenore Lockett, please.
Lenora Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. Again, not being the expert on the item, the original contract was a 3-year contract for $467,200. So that's approximately about $125 a year. There was an amendment, and there have been several other amendments. So again, that amount was the original, and I can't speak to if there was an increase in licenses or whatever might have been augmented over the time since that original contract.
Stephen, is this a rush item? It appears council does have some questions. Is this the reason this needs to move forward today?
No, because the staff is not available, we feel confident that we can hold it, and the vendor will be. The vendor's already been waiting, so I mean, another week shouldn't be that terrible.
Councilman Miller, would you be good with that?
Good for you.
Okay, unless anyone feels differently, then I guess I'll hold this item until we get some additional information, because thank you for trying, Stephen. I understand that the person's not in, so let's just hold this so we can properly answer the questions.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, next item then, please.
So, yes, I would appreciate that. I'm sure this is something we need, and my primary interest is to make sure that we do look into that, whether this is something that we can bid out and whether there can be competition for these services. But I would like to know the price history and a little bit more about exactly what the money is used for, and so I appreciate if we can hold it for a week.
Sure. And Stephen, just,
This is Nan Baker. If I may comment also, I believe, and thank you for the timeline that really details what the delay was in getting this done. I'd like to share this with our ERP director and show him from August of 2020 to today, going before Board of Control in 2021, going into March. That's how long something like this took and the reasons why. So although we may be overcoming it, I think it would be a document that would be at least interesting for our ERP people to see just how difficult it was to get this particular request through the system. So I just think they should see it.
Sure, I think Jack might even, we'll make sure he sees it.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Let's move on to the next item then, please.
Okay, next item, BC 2021-81, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Homeless Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with Housing Innovations, LLC for planning and evaluation services in connection with the Cuyahoga County Continuum of Care Evaluation and Planning Project for the period August 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2020, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2021, to modify the language in Section 11 regarding force majeure events effective January 1st, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $132,000.
Good morning, Melissa Surak with the Office of Homeless Services, requesting approval of this contract amendment with Housing Innovations, LLC to add grant dollars awarded through the fiscal year 2019 U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. HUD supports Continuum of Cares to implement best practices and improve outcomes by awarding planning dollars for technical assistance, provider training, and federal regulations understanding and compliance. The primary goals of the Housing Innovations contract are to assess and provide recommendations to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of the Cuyahoga County Continuum of Care, provide recommendations for the integration and coordination of mainstream systems and resources with the COC federal resources, and to provide technical assistance to OHS in applying for federal grant programs, including the annual NOFA. This contract is solely funded through the Department of Housing and Urban Development which subjects COCs to HUD's timeline in receiving the grant awards and agreements. The timing is always dictated at HUD's timeline and discretion, and at times can be delayed. As such, we bring the contract before you today for approval.
Thank you, Melissa. Are there any questions from the board on this item?
This is Nan Baker, and I again understand the delay. Has money been held then for the last almost 60 days before this is approved, or if this is approved today?
Yes, we
you talked about the continuum of care, so I'm wondering, was there a hesitation in getting services and payment?
There was no hesitation. It was just working it through the normal process. I believe we received this grant award in November from HUD, which again is based off of their timing. So we worked it through our system from that timing on to be before you today.
But no money has exchanged hands, has it?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Melissa, just to follow up on that, I mean, services will continue to be provided. This is just to get reimbursement, is that correct?
That is correct. No services have stopped within the continuum, and these are specifically planning grant dollars,
Right.
Working with our consultant within system services and how everything's provided and the annual HUD NOFA application is completed.
Okay.
So no services have ceased within our continuum at all, or with OCHA and between this consultant group.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions from the board on this item? Hearing none, then I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second, Trevor.
Seconded by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-82, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services, recommending a payment to Public Children's Services Association of Ohio in the amount of $35,982.92 for membership dues for the period January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021.
Good morning, Dan Basta, Health and Human Services on behalf of Children and Family Services. This is our annual membership dues for the Public Children's Services Association of Ohio. The Public Children's Services Association of Ohio provides best practices, promotes program excellence, and builds public value for safe children within the public agencies of Ohio. Originally, we used to do these based on travel membership within the system. Per the request of, I believe, the fiscal office, when there is an amount larger than $1,000, it should be in front of the Board of Control. Therefore, we bring it to you today, and we appreciate your consideration of this item.
Thank you, Dan. Just a small clarification. It's not the $1,000, but when I see items that, get to this magnitude, I like to run them through for full disclosure. So it's not really.
Sorry about that, Mike.
No, you're fine. I just want to clarify. Are there any questions from the board on this item?
Nan Baker, I have a question.
Sure.
So these are for membership dues. Is this something that's ongoing? We have done this in the past.
Correct. The previous approval on this one was for, it was under 460-89388, and it's been in perpetuity for at least as long as I've been here, so 7 years.
Thank you. And if we know that this is going to be something that we want to renew based on past renewals, why are we 45 to almost 60 days late in requesting?
Well, initially we did this as a travel item, but how we used to do it before. It needed to come in front of the board. We actually held it in our queue for a while. By no fault of the board's, obviously it's our fault, so we held it, but we've since corrected the issues, and we're going to make sure that we put it in as soon as we get it next year.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Further questions from the board on this item? Hearing none, then I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, this is Dale.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-83, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Senior and Adult Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with Senior Transportation Connection for operational support for transportation services for seniors and adults with disabilities for the period February 10th, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $200,000.
Good morning. Paul Porter, Health and Human Services on behalf of the Division of Senior and Adult Services. This is an extension of an agreement that we entered into with Senior Transportation Connection in 2020 for operational support funding to help support their overall provision of transportation services to seniors throughout Cuyahoga County. Some of the things that they use this funding for are to develop and improve their recruitment, hiring, retention, and training, investments in vehicles and vehicle maintenance, and then improving their technology to improve the customer experience, registration and reservation processes, and their trip routing software. Again, this is an extension because this funding was added to the biennial budget for both 2020 and 2021. This is not tied to a specific service that they're providing. Rather, it's overall operational support. And it's a contribution to help them deliver services to seniors throughout the county across multiple programs. STC is a subcontractor for some of the senior centers throughout the county, for instance, and they're also a provider in the DSAS Options for Independent Living program.
Thank you, Paul. Are there any questions from the board on this item?
Nan Baker, just Paul, if you can, again, this is another one that ended at the end of the year, and we're now going into March here in another week or so. Why did it take so long to bring it forward?
Thank you, Councilwoman Baker. We do have several members of our team that worked on large master agreements for both the Division of Senior and Adult Services and the Division of Children and Family Services. Those contracts ended up being a higher priority based on the number of tasks that had to be completed to get them approved in the new system. So some of our smaller agreements waited behind those until we were able to finish those. For the master agreements, ones where we've got, 26 vendors or 55 vendors, all of those vendors have to get approved through the new system before they can be activated. So it was just based on, prioritizing the workload with the tasks that had to be completed and allocating staff based on that.
Okay, we're the cities that are waiting for this funding, have they been there? So they're going to be paid for whatever expenses they've had to date?
Because this one is not tied to a specific service, STC can put in for reimbursement, for general expenses that would be during this contract period. For the other contracts that I mentioned, because those were already approved by council, those master agreements, nobody's going to experience not being able to receive payments. It might just be a little bit later than what they would have expected. For instance, we usually issue payments for January services in the middle of February. Some of those payments will probably be more towards next week, like the end of February or beginning of March.
And those reimbursements that funding will be for January and February expenses?
Correct, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, even though I understand getting the larger projects done, these cities are waiting for these dollars too. So I hope in future we can get these to us before the contract ends.
Absolutely. We'll make sure we prioritize that.
All right. All right. Thank you, Chair.
Sure. Any further questions on this item? Hearing none, then I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Nicole English. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Item approved. Moving on to exemptions.
Item BC 2021-84, Department of Development, recommending an alternative procurement process which will result in the issuance of a request for qualifications on requisition 5152 in the amount not to exceed $23,494,727.40 to various nonprofit organizations for emergency rental assistance services for the period April 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021.
Good morning. Paul Herdig with the Department of Development. This item will allow us to issue a request for qualification for about $23.5 million of federal emergency rental assistance. These funds were received in mid-January according to legislation that was passed by Congress and signed by the President right after Christmas. The intent of the legislation is to provide funding to prevent homelessness by assisting tenants who've been impacted by the pandemic with reduction of income or increased expenses. The U.S. Treasury Department administers these funds, and in fact, the funds were already paid to the county and are on hand. They were officially appropriated by council at its February 9th meeting. The issuance of this RFQ will allow us to conduct a full and open competitive process. We are prepared to send the RFQ to over 100 nonprofit organizations as soon as the Board of Control gives us the okay. We will conduct an expedited review process such that we can recommend awards back to council for consideration on first reading at its March 9th meeting with the opportunity for full public hearing, and at the pleasure of council, if council sees fit to make awards on second reading, these services can begin on April 1st. Of the total amount received by the county, about $25.5 million, there was an emergency authorization already to place $2 million under contract with CHN Housing Partners. And it's our judgment that $2 million will be sufficient to tide the tenants over through the month of March, but it's necessary now to have additional awards made starting in April so that tenants will be able to continue to receive support and avoid evictions starting in April.
Thank you, Paul. Are there any questions from the board on this item?
Yes, this is Dale. I have a couple questions. The first one, the money that we provided to CHN Housing, do they already have that money, and is their program using this money up and running?
Thank you, Councilman Miller. Yes, the program is up and running. The $2 million is going into continuation of the emergency rental program that we started with CHN in the middle of last year. We had emergency authorization to spend $5 million of CARES Act funding, which they fully spent. We also had emergency authorization for approximately $1.8 million of community development block grant funding, of which they've spent all but a small amount. And so this $2 million that's under emergency authorization is for the continuation of that program, and they're continuing to process their tenant checks without any interruption, and have indicated they'll be able to keep doing that through the end of March.
I have a constituent who's asking about saying that he wants to apply for rental assistance under a program that was set up by the U.S. Treasury Department and is being funneled through the counties. Is this that program, or is he talking about a different program?
Councilman Miller, this is the program. This money is from the United States Treasury, and this is the money that's being used to let this program continue into 2021 until the full awards can be made. So yes, sir, this is the same program.
And CHN is saying that they're not providing assistance to Lakewood residents, and instead the Lakewood residents are being referred to the Lakewood Community Services Center. Could you explain why that is, and whether there's other situations like that where certain communities have different arrangements?
Councilman Miller, first of all, we're going to clear this up today now that we know that it's in Lakewood. There is a problem, not a problem. There's a situation in Lakewood where the leadership of the city of Lakewood wanted to administer the federal block grant money themselves and instructed the staff at CHN not to accept applications from the city of Lakewood because the unrestricted money, the CARES Act money, was used up. So there's clearly a failure here to update the system to show that the Treasury money is now available in the city of Lakewood. And Councilman, we will make sure CHN deals directly with the tenant to make sure their application can be received and processed using the Treasury money.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay, any further questions on this item?
Mr. Chair, I have some.
Sure, yes.
Paul, just to follow up on Councilman Miller's question, this money can be used in any of the 59 communities?
Thank you, Trevor, for the question. In terms of the $2 million, which is the only amount that's been placed under emergency authorization already, the scope of services is 58 communities, not counting the city of Cleveland. And that's because the city of Cleveland has substantial resources of its own that it's placed under contract with CHN, which are not exhausted. But absolutely, that's the $2 million. It can be used in all 58, certainly including the city of Lakewood. It's an open issue what will happen with the $23.5 million. We do not know that we'll even award it to CHN. We truly want this to be an open process. So we're awaiting the submission that will come in to see what's being proposed. But it is certainly our intent in scoring these to make sure that there are awards that make this assistance available for any eligible tenant outside the city of Cleveland. And we'll have to take a look at what the situation is in the city of Cleveland to see if the money needs to go into the city of Cleveland as well. But we do have no intent of excluding any of the 58 suburbs.
And do you anticipate that this $23 million can be awarded to multiple vendors, or is your goal one vendor? And is there a timetable to spend these funds?
Yes, thank you, Trevor. I'm going to take it in reverse order. In terms of the timetable, there's a very strict deadline set by federal law that we can't leave.
Oh boy, here we go.
I mean, we've asked many times for people not to do this. Is there any objections if we all call back in like a minute or so, or do you want to just sit and wait? Trevor, you on board?
What's that, Mike? I can't hear you. Sorry, buddy. There's some music going.
I was suggesting that maybe we just all hang up and call back in.
Yeah, and I can text Dell and Nan just in case they can't hear that. But yeah, let's do that.
I can hear that.
All right, let's all hang up, and we're going to hang up and call back in. Thank you.
Welcome to WebEx. Enter your access code or... If you are the meeting host, enter the host PIN followed by pound.
I knew it. If they didn't disconnect.
Well, that didn't work. Hello? Whoever had their phone on hold, please. That was very rude. We all had to hang up, whoever you are. You were told many times, do not put on hold.
Dan Baker calling in.
I don't know if you heard, but whoever was on actually came back. When we dialed in, it was still on the music. So, all right.
Paul Hulick here. Ready to go when we're all back.
This is unbelievable. Okay. I think we're all back.
Mike, you let us know when you want me to keep going.
Let's go while we got the shot here, Paul.
So, Trevor, you're on?
Yes, I'm here, and I think,
Okay.
is Councilman Miller back on?
Yes, I
okay,
just
good.
sent you a text. I've been back on for a little while.
Okay.
I hung up and called back even before you said to do so.
Great. And Baker as well?
Yes, Dan Baker's here.
Okay, great. So, Trevor's question was...
Paul, can I just ask a question? Are we still live streaming on YouTube, though? I just want to make sure we're still...
Okay, yeah, we certainly wait for that if we need to.
I just didn't want to start...
Yes, we're still live streaming.
If we're not.
We are still live
Okay,
streaming.
cool. Sorry. Just want to make
We're good on that? Okay. So, Trevor's question, the second part was about deadlines, and the legislation does set a September 30th deadline to spend 65% of the money, and if we miss that, they're going to reallocate it to others, and then there is a December 31st deadline, end of this year, to spend all the money. That is for the overall grant. With the way we wrote the RFQ, we're passing down that condition to every award we make because we don't think anyone should be allowed to lag. I think Trevor's second question was, do we foresee making multiple awards? And the answer is, we just don't know. We're truly trying to make this an open process. We're sending out over 100 emails. We were able to get the entire vendor list from HHS. So we're really making an effort to get this out to all nonprofits. There may be nonprofits that have special populations they want to serve, such that in the review process, we might rate them highly as to that special population and make an award, for someone serving a particular population. We are scoring these based on capacity, so we do expect that we'll be making awards to people that have that capacity to handle a pretty good volume. But again, the volume might depend on if they're targeting a subpopulation of the whole county. There's also a couple other wrinkles. One is that we could make a special award for just some services. There's something in the law that says up to 10% of the money can be used for basically case management or other services to keep people housed. And it's been suggested that maybe legal services to tenants would come under that. So we wrote the RFQ to invite people that just directly provide services such as legal services or mediation services to make proposals. We might do those separately. And there's one more wrinkle, which is that there's some wording in the law that's not quite clear. It says, in addition to rent and utilities, there could be, quote, other costs incurred by tenants due to COVID-19, and that could possibly be interpreted to cover things such as lead remediation or improving their apartments for safety improvements. So we've left the RFQ open for that as well. So it's a little bit complicated, and it's possible we'll come back to council without recommending the full amount awarded initially, but we do have to be sensitive of the ticking clock. We cannot wait too long. And of course, the other factor is the tenants. They're, right now, the federal moratorium on evictions runs through March 31st. So right now, we're looking at a cliff March 31st. If we have nothing in place, people are going to start getting evicted again.
Mr. Chair, just one follow-up to that, Paul. I believe you gave me this information a couple weeks ago when we were talking to the council president, but it cannot be used for mortgages, right? It's only rent and utilities right now is the plan.
Correct. It absolutely cannot be used for mortgages. It is clearly for tenants only. That is very clearly defined in the law.
And when the request for alternative procurement is because, in essence, the time frame we're under, right? With we only have funding through March, and we just don't have time to go through the normal process.
That's precisely correct. And I would add that this is not a case of the Lawson system failing. The system is functioning properly. It's just there are required steps that need to be taken. And right now, we're at the step where the money that was appropriated by council February 9th needs to be loaded into the system. And as soon as that's done, we can advance to what's called a requisition, which is ready to go, which we will do. And when that's done, there's an additional step of actually in Lawson doing the work to record that we're issuing the RFQ. And so if we had more time, we would absolutely follow these steps, but we're just under a bind here. But I want to emphasize there's no intent to avoid any full and open competition here. There's no steering. We're distributing this RFQ as widely as we can. It'll be on the county's website, and we absolutely invite any and all responses, and any awards will go to council for a full and open public hearing.
Last question for me, Mr. Chair, just in terms of when do we plan on posting it and for how long, and are we capping the administrative costs, or is it capped through the federal legislation already, but are we going to put that in our bid specs that only so much can go towards admin?
Sure. In terms of timing, we have the emails ready to go as soon as we have the approval from this board, and we also have the IT department ready to post the entire RFQ on development's website at noon today, pending approval by this board. We're doing a pre-bid conference by Microsoft Teams tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, which we are, again, posting on our website so that all can be aware of that. And that's also in the 100 emails we're sending out. Due to the compressed time frame, we do need to receive the proposals in a 1-week period. We're giving until next Monday, March 1st. And we do have a team of staff, the review team, standing by to work intensively on the review so that this can both be reviewed inside the administration first and then presented to council for March 9th. In terms of the admin cap, yes, the RFQ clearly and in writing states what that cap is. And we also quote the federal guidance, which also refers to that cap.
Hey, what's the cap, Paul?
At 10%, 10% is for a combination of direct operating costs, staff costs, usually called admin costs, and the other tenant stability services. So honestly, as we're doing our review, we would not necessarily expect, and as we negotiate with providers, it's kind of a scale. If a provider is doing a relatively small program, they might need the full 10%, but if a provider wants to do the whole $23 million, they may not be able to justify the full 10% of their award for staff costs.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks, Paul, for the background.
Okay, thank you. Any final questions on this item? Hearing none, then I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Dale.
I'm going to be.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Item approved. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Moving on to consent items BC 2021-85 through 87.
Take a moment to review these, and if there's any questions, feel free to speak.
Mr. Chair, I had a question on 85. Is the current vendor one of the 9 bidders that responded to the RFP?
Yes, they are. This is Bert Vikowski from the Treasury, and yes, they are one of the current bidders. The RFP closed in January, and we received 9 responses, one of which was from the company that currently holds the contract.
And Bert, do they get paid based on a per transaction percentage?
Yes, the payments that they receive come directly from the taxpayers that use the service. There is a percentage fee that comes out of each transaction. So the county does not pay any funds for this service.
And with the bids, the responses, did the percentages vary? And you don't need to tell me what the percentages are, but with the 9 responses, was there a difference in the percentages received, or was it pretty standard?
They have not gone through all of them yet, so I do not have that information. The bid on this closed last month at the beginning of the collection period, so they are looking. That was part of the reason why they asked for the extension, to give us time to properly review all of the responses that we received and have something in place before the contract expired in August.
And then prior to this bid that you're still reviewing, do you know when the last time this service was bid in the Treasurer's office?
Let me see if I have the original contract. I believe it was in 2014 when this contract was put into place, but I can check that for you right now. Let's see. It looks like they originally did a contract in 2014. And this is several pages long. I'm looking to see if there, to my knowledge, this is the only amendment that's been made. So I don't know if that date, the wording of the contract is, I'm not a legal person, but it implies that there may have been a previous agreement. It says previously entered into an official payments agreement as of June of 2014. And then the new agreement, the new master agreement was signed, I'm scrolling through there, was signed in 2019. So it looks like they may have done one in 2019. I would have to double check because this is the only document that I have with regard to this particular transaction is the master agreement.
Okay, just let me know when you can, Bert. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, with that being said, are there any further questions on today's consent agenda?
Just one, Nan Baker.
Yes.
Just wondering why we are going out to bid when we knew this was ending in February 12th, 2021. Why didn't we back it up, go out to bid maybe last November so that we could have reviewed what we needed to review and still stayed within the contract time?
I would have to ask the treasurer and deputy treasurer, as that decision was made by them, and they are not on the call today, but I will follow up and let you know.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, hearing no final questions on today's consent agenda, I am going to make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, this is Trevor.
Seconded by Ms. Nicole English. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Item approved. Moving on to other business.
We have one time-sensitive mission-critical item, item BC 2021-88, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services, recommending an award on requisition 4896 to Ravenhouse in the amount not to exceed $24,999.99 for emergency placement services for the period December 28th, 2020 through March 28th, 2021.
Good morning. Emily Lockshine with Health and Human Services on behalf of Children and Family Services, presenting a mission critical for a 12-year-old female placed with Ravenhouse. Ravenhouse is located in Cleveland and provides female youth between the ages of 7 to 17 with emergency home-based structure,
education, daily routine, socialization, and integrated activities that will enable them to adapt in society and reunify with their families. This youth has been diagnosed with PTSD, depression, behavioral disorder, and transgender. She suffers from extremely aggressive behavior and has made attempts to harm family members, including younger siblings. She was put into placement after assaulting her mother during a visit.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the board on this item? Hearing none, then I'm going to make a motion to approve this. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, item approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to public comment. If there's anyone which has public comment, feel free to speak at this time. Okay, there is no public comment at that time now. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Lee Tucker. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.